Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast with myself, Ian, and Mr. Mike, or Michael Hawes. Follow us both on Twitter. We have lots of stuff coming up with the Euros, I would imagine, because we all like summer of football. And then that leads straight into the next season. However, we do have a week left of this Premier League season. And what that means is the last show is actually going to be live. And it's no longer going to be on Tuesday as it normally comes out. We are going live on the 26th of May at 7:30 Greenwich Mean Time. So join us live on the FDT-TV YouTube channel. The link will be in the description. And yeah, come and join in the conversation. It's all going to be good fun. Whole season summary just in one show. So,
hopefully some better weather as well.
Well, hopefully, even though I am the only man who gets sunburnt when it's raining. You couldn't...
Go figure.
Like, if I go backwards slightly, you see the redness coming out in me. But that's why I'm going to sit right under this light for the whole time. Mike, we've had an interesting week of football. You've actually had 2 games to enjoy. What did you make of this week?
It's been a bit of a crazy week. Obviously, we've had the 36th games of game week 36 in the Premier League.
Yep.
We've had the FA Cup final. We've seen Rangers crowned the Scottish champions. They finally
Invincibles.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I wanted to mention. Like, fair play to them. When you look at where they went in the not so recent history,
yep,
nearly crashing out of the Football League, working their way back up. Celtic running absolute riot for that time, and it's got to be said that Steven Gerrard has done an absolutely fantastic job. I've got close family connections in Scotland who are both Rangers and Celtic fans, and I know that the Celtic fans have definitely had their fair share of enjoyment over the last few seasons, but I think what a way to rub it in Celtic's faces to go, because I think they were looking to do the treble last year.
Yep.
Didn't get that done. And then obviously Steven Gerrard has taken Rangers to an invincible season and crowned Scottish champions.
Yeah.
The FA Cup went the way I don't think a lot of people were expecting to go, which obviously we can come on to a bit later on. Not
without its VAR controversy either. You couldn't have a game, could we? A single fucking game without it.
And then obviously the Premier League back in action this week as well. Obviously, yeah, started off with our game early on in the week. A very bizarre game, which will come into the one good, one bad, but. We'll start the proceedings off with our regular fixture or regular appearance.
Yes, we shall, which is goal of the week. Sorry, I forgot what button I had to press for it.
That was a good one, by the way.
No, thank you.
So we have had some good goals this week. I am only going to go from the Premier League. I'm not going to take into account the FA Cup, as I said.
Yeah.
Although I think had that goal been included in the goal of the week,
I think it would have won.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a screamer, wasn't
it? Yep. So looking at this week's goals, I've gone for 4 again this week. I've gone Ferran Torres for Manchester City. I did see a goal like this a couple of years ago with Aaron Ramsey. Cute little flick. It was just I thought it was personally a really good goal.
Mm-hmm.
So Benrahma for West Ham United. Again, there's been quite a few goals this week which have come from outside the box and bent into the goal.
Yep.
And this was no exception. Klitsch for Leeds again was another one of these goals from at range, bent around the keeper, super goal. And I have to give this one just on the basis of it was very unexpected. I think Liverpool were chasing the game for a lot of the game. Were lucky to come away winners, but I've got to say, I've said it a few weeks ago, headers I'm really enjoying headers at the moment, but Alisson Becker, what a header to get the winner. So those are my 4 options for goal of the week this week. Obviously, like I said, all we have done throughout the season, we are running polls on Twitter. If you want to go, head over to Twitter, vote for your goal of the week, and we will announce the winner next week. Just going on last week's results. I mentioned it last week. There was a few from the Arsenal game. But for me personally, I had to give it to, or you have voted, Willian was the overall winner with 46%. It was an absolute belter of a free kick. It's just a shame it's come too late in the season.
Say, he now has the same amount of goals as Ben Rama and Alisson Becker. In fairness, I think this week is probably the closest it's going to be, or the hardest decision it's going to be to crown goal of the week. Because if those 4 goals were scored in 4 different weeks, I imagine they would all win.
Yep.
And the fact that we haven't included Yuri Telemans' screamer in the FA Cup final makes it even harder, because it's like, well, Premier League, which is right. I think you've done that right. But yeah, all phenomenal goals. Especially Ben Rama's. He's been trying to get it all season. First goal for West Ham, and he scored the goal that makes it look like he should be scoring 20 a season. To open your account like that, it's not bad, is it? It's not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
But I think that leads us quite nicely on to our next section of the podcast, which is one good, one bad. And considering you had 2 games, I think we should do a Mike sandwich. I think you should go once, I'll go in the middle, and then you can finish it off. I was going to say... I thought you were going to say...
the one game this week.
Did you?
Yeah. It was just the Chelsea game.
So when do you play next? Or have you got...
On Wednesday.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to scrap the idea for the Mike sandwich. As much as I almost stepped in it and said, and you can finish me off. Not a good choice of words. But also, it would be factually incorrect as well. So I still think you should go first. I really do.
Yeah.
Chronological order. So over to you, Mr. Mike.
So Arsenal took on Chelsea, a midweek game. It was a game that we mentioned in the podcast last week with the form that Chelsea have been on. I know they have had a few slip-ups in recent weeks, but since Thomas Tuchel has come in, they have looked like a formidable force challenging for top 4 in Champions League. They are obviously in the they were in the FA Cup final and the Champions League final, and like I said, with the form they were on, I think the pair of us had stated that it was going to be a fairly comfortable result for Chelsea, but we went to Stamford Bridge. I've got to say that our away form, unlike previous seasons, has tended to be better over the course of this season than the home record, which is really weird. But however, we scored a goal in the most bizarre of circumstances. Absolutely gifted. I think it was who was it? I can't remember. Whoever it was, I can't remember who it was. A stupid back pass towards Aspilicueta. Managed to save it off the line. There were some thoughts to say that because it was a back pass and the goalkeeper touched it, it should have been a indirect or a free kick within the box around about the 6-yard line. However, because we'd scored the goal, I think that was the reason as to why it was given. Emile Smith-Rowe pops up with his second in 2 games. So my one good has to be Emile Smith-Rowe for that particular game. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. Everyone worked their socks off in that game, and Chelsea were coming at us from the word go. I would say that the goal come against run of play. They did threaten our penalty area quite a bit, and I think we're quite unlucky towards the end not to score. Zuma cropping up with a looping header. Should have beat Leno, but it was a fingertip save which managed to tip it over. And one of these finishes that Giroud, I think, has been famous for in his time in the Premier League, unluckily hit the crossbar. And to be fair, I think the draw would have been a fair result. I was glad to come away with 3 points. Mm-hmm. But so my one good is Emile Smith-Rowe, his outstanding performance throughout the game. But my one bad for this one is that we're still looking frail at the back. And I know we have had injury concerns. It was a bit of a mix-up from what we have seen. We've seen more of a 4 or a conventional 4 across the back. This time we went out with 3 centre-backs and two wing-backs. But like I said, that Chelsea could have easily carved us open a couple of times. But I think Leno definitely kept us in that game, and so did the woodwork. So Yeah, that is my one good, one bad for this week.
Very, very good. It is quite interesting because you think we've got it's gonna be words out. You've got now what, 2 games remaining?
Yep.
If you win both of those, you still can shoot up the table. That's how close sort of mid to upper table is. Would you see that as a silly question? You're going to be out. By the looks at you're out of Europe regardless. But if you win your next 2 games and shoot up, so you're still in the top half of the table, is that a good recovery or is that just I don't know, a consolation? How do you view it?
Personally, I think it's a bit of a consolation. Like I said, at the start of the season, in my season preview, I did mention it was going to be, or our aims for this year was going to be a cup run. I mean, we did okay in the Europa League. On the most part, it was just the last game in the Europa League we were a bit of a damp squib. But I did actually put us down for challenging for top 4 this year. I think we finished the season on a high last year. We haven't carried that momentum. Obviously, there are mitigating circumstances in terms of injuries, and it's just been a crazy old season. I think everyone will look back at this season and think, what the hell, when you have, I think this year has been the underdogs could literally come away with the result, whereas you travel into an away game, you would expect the home team to win because you've got the crowd behind them. Obviously, we haven't seen that now for nigh on a season and a half, or the best part of 2 seasons. So it has been a crazy old time for football.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we have seen fans coming back into stadiums. Obviously, the country is improving in terms of its COVID infection rate, so we will start to see more people coming back into stadiums, and I think that would be a massive difference.
Yeah.
But in terms of Arsenal's performance this year, there is a possibility they've got that new European competition that comes into play from next season, the UEFA Conference League, I think it's, which opens up to 7th place. I still think that is a big ask because obviously we have to rely on the teams around us as well to possibly slip up. Again, in the weirdest of circumstances, I believe that if Arsenal were to win their last 2 games, which I don't think are going to be any mean feats. Obviously, Brighton is their last game of the season. They've been on a bit of a run. Crystal Palace turned it around at the weekend to win 4-2, I think, or 4-3. Yeah. So it was. I don't think they're going to be easy games. So, but if we were to, and West Ham were to slip up, for how well West Ham have been doing this season, I think if you were to lose your next 2 games and we were to win our next 2 games, I think that is very unlucky on West Ham's performance. On West Ham's part, because for the best part of the majority of the season, they deserve to be where they are.
Yep.
But I would feel cheated as a West Ham fan if Arsenal finished above them this year. I really would.
It's a difficult one. I think we'll get into that in a little bit. But before we get any further, I have just seen some breaking news. Don't know how true it is, but allegedly Harry Kane has told Tottenham officially that he wants to leave in the summer. So obviously,
that is some...
there are some rivals allegedly already been in contact. One being Manchester United, the other being Manchester City. And I would imagine Chelsea will probably throw their name in the hat, as well as PSG, possibly Real Madrid or Barcelona. But I do think, and it's a hard one because Harry Kane as a guy outside of football seems like a really nice guy, but there's no doubting his footballing ability, his ability to score a goal. I just don't like the way he plays. For me, he's a bit of a dirty player with the spitting and the fouls and the stuff, and he gets away with a lot because he's England captain. So I think personally the referees in the Premier League give him a bit more rope than maybe they would other players, because Harry Kane's England captain. Sending him off every week probably wouldn't be good. or not good press anyway. But maybe interesting. I do think he's more than likely to end up in a Manchester United shirt next season. Does that mean the end of Rashford, Martial, or Greenwood? Who knows? Especially with Cavani signing on another 1-year deal. Very interesting.
The other thing, or the other side to that, is that you got to look how the swing of power, and this is horrible for me to say, but how well Spurs have done in comparison to Arsenal over the last few years.
Yep.
Will we see the demise of Tottenham Hotspur if Harry Kane was to leave? I'm not saying the complete demise. I'm not saying they're going to be by any means in the bottom half of the table next year, but that is a lot of goals that they have scored this year has come from either him scoring or him assisting. So if you lose that, I know he's pushing on a bit, so he is potentially looking for that one more big contract.
Yep.
But is that are we gonna see the swing or the power swinging back into Arsenal's favour again if he does? I know this is all conjecture as it stands at the moment. We don't know if anyone's going to come in for him, if anyone's going to be able to afford him. But could we see Tottenham Hotspur?
I do think you bring up a valid point. You do bring up a valid point, and I think when you look at Tottenham's track record of when they've got a big transfer or transfer revenue in, i.e. Gareth Bale, they bought 7 players. There's only one left, and that's Lamela. And you wouldn't say he's top quality. He's going to get you Champions League football every year. Yes, he does some good things. Yes, he's a good player, but he's inconsistent and he's injury stricken. If they get another windfall, are they going to waste it on lots of players, or are they going to go out and try and buy one big player? He's an interesting one. Will the likes of Son go with he's going? I don't want to be here because we're not going to win anything. We've been useless this season. We see in the Tottenham dressing rooms, didn't we? In the All or Nothing series that Amazon did, there was discontent at points where they were arguing with each other because they don't feel everyone's defending, and some players feel like the team's doing shit and they're still not getting an opportunity. I know Jose Mourinho's gone now, but it's still the same group of players there. And with a big new stadium still to pay off, if they get 100 million in, are they likely to spend 100 million? Possibly not, because we've got a big stadium. Actually, that's a nice big chunk of that just paid for. So I do think that is a very valid point you bring up.
And also, Spurs haven't got a manager at the moment. They've only got Ryan Mason as the caretaker as well. And obviously, you're going to have to appoint a new manager to come in. And are they going to want to lose their best player, or arguably their best player?
Yeah.
I know. Obviously, we've said it once. We'll say it so many more times in however many podcasts we do. The money talks and bullshit walks.
Yep.
So if someone comes in with the £100 million, I think regardless, it's gonna he's gonna go. But one of the things that I kind of want to put out there, and I would be interested to see if any Spurs fans do join the live one next week. Obviously, we'll have to wait to see if this story builds any momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But how would they feel about Harry Kane leaving? Is it if he does go, are they going to resent him, or is it that they have to hold their hands up and say, "Well, thanks very much for your service. You gave us your all, even though we weren't, or we were going through a bit of a transitional period." Going into the Champions League, obviously they got to the final a couple of years ago against Liverpool. So do they say thanks very much, or next season if he plays at Manchester United, comes and scores against Tottenham and celebrates, is he then dead to them, or how do they react to it?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, the Tottenham fans that I've spoken to, that I work with, and that I know, before when I've brought it up saying, "Oh, Harry Kane will leave next season, he'll leave next season." The beginning of the season, there was no chance. He ain't going anywhere, especially when that first few games. They were like, "Why would he leave? We're playing fantastic football. We're going to win stuff this year. We're going to dominate the league." And then as the season went on, and I brought it up again, there was that, yeah, he probably will leave, and I wouldn't blame him. So I don't think the Tottenham fans will hate him by any means. I think they will understand that he's given it everything, and it's not worked out. It's not. I think he will still be a Tottenham legend throughout the years. He's been phenomenal for them, and I don't think they will hate it. I think that will change when he scores a hat trick against them, to put them out of a cup or to bash them back down the league into the Championship, get down the bus, and then celebrates in front of them. Does the Adebayor and no. But yeah, no, it would be interesting to see. I imagine there's a mixed pool, but I think deep down, I don't think they could hold a grudge. I think it'd be quite difficult to. But here's the thing: with the likes of PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, all big clubs, yeah, even Juventus, even though they might be kicked out of Serie A, we covered that last week. Bayern Munich, you could see him going there to replace Lewandowski, possibly. Sorry, pardon me. Is the big thing for him going to be breaking Alan Shearer's Premier League record? Because he's more than capable of doing it. If he stays relatively injury free and he gets 3 or 4 more seasons in the Premier League, is that going to be a big incentive to stay in the league, to go, actually, this is a record that is unlikely to be beaten again, and I'm the best. I've got the best chance of doing it.
I did read something that his preference would be to stay within the Premier League. I think it just depends on Tottenham's desire to sell him to a Premier League rival, such as your Manchester United, your Manchester Cities. But I suppose in the same breath, I think one of the 2 Manchester clubs, and possibly Chelsea, would be the more likely to be able to stump up the funds in order to secure that signing. I'm not saying with the likes of PSG and Bayern Munich and all that sort of stuff that they wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I think for what his desire would be to is, yes, you could go and sign to PSG, who are pretty much guaranteed to win the French league every year. You could go to Bayern Munich, and I would say the similar sort of circumstances, that you're more than likely to win the Bundesliga every year. But the Premier League, I would certainly say, over the last 10 years has definitely become a lot more a lot harder in terms of being able to get the overall championship. I know obviously Liverpool, they've kind of run away with it last year. Manchester City, I suppose, this year have done it as well. It's been kind of fiercely contested between Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester City over the last few years. But I think having seen the gap closing to a certain extent in the top 4 or the top 6, I think it would be better for his career if he was then to go to a Manchester United, who haven't won the league in a few years, arguably one of the best clubs within England. Likewise with Manchester City, or all of the clubs. I think it would be a better message to send out to say, I've competed at the highest level in a difficult league. It would be better for him to say that. But again, would you want to move where the money's talking, and you're kind of guaranteed a winner's medal at the end of it? It's hard, because he could go to one of these English clubs. They might have however many transfers to improve their squad, but then miss out because of another team has recruited better. So it's a tough one.
Here's a question. With the likes of David Luiz seemingly going, I've seen reports today that Willian will be going as well, following him out the door. Aubameyang is obviously the wrong side of 30 for a footballer. Would you take him at Arsenal?
No.
Not a chance. Not even if he was going to score you 35 goals a season and win you the championship.
I don't think, I've got to be honest, I don't think his style of play
suits you.
Because I think personally, this is going to come across very controversial. I think Lacazette is a better striker. And what I mean by that is that he's slightly quicker. I would say if you were to put those two into a sprint,
Yeah.
I think Lacazette would have him down for pace.
Yep.
Granted, we haven't seen the best of Lacazette. I'd say it's been his best season so far in terms of his goals scored. But I think he's had such an inconsistent run of games. And I think had he had the consistent run of games that Harry Kane has had over the last few years, his confidence might be up. He may be into 20 goals a season, possibly, but because he's been so hit and miss. Personally, I wouldn't want to see him in an Arsenal shirt.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The only picture of him in an Arsenal shirt will be as a youngster. But let's get back to one good, one bad, shall we?
Yep.
So
yeah, we digressed heavily.
We did. We went off track. That was my fault. Sorry. So I am wearing black because that is the end of our Champions League run. Unfortunately, unless something goes really obscure over the next 2 games, which in the Premier League is not unheard of, but it's more unlikely. We've now dropped down to 7th, below Liverpool and Spurs, even though it is still quite tight. But my one good is that Saeed Benrahma scored, and it was a good goal. As I said earlier, it's a goal that is more likely to come from someone who's scored 15, 20 goals in a season, not their first that's been struggling. It was a well-placed shot off the post. My one bad is that it was a very lethargic performance, very much of the essence of when we played Fulham. Although we see the return of Ogbonna and Declan Rice, neither of them were particularly match fit, and the whole team just seemed to be lacking. And I don't know whether that's the build-up of games and the minimal amount of squad depth. So if we take out Souček and Declan Rice, Lanzini's out injured now from this game. Noble had picked up an injury. Other than that, you've got Connor Coventry, who's playing in the under-23s league or the Premier League 2. That's about it. So our squad depth is really what is now showing at the tail end of the season. So it is unfortunate that we've sort of fallen from grace, but the tired performance is my bad. But we didn't lose to Brighton.
Yes.
We still got a point. A point's better than nothing, but it's a shame in the way that we've sort of had the last few weeks. And I know West Ham fans were looking forward to these, like the running of games. When you look at them, Everton's never really an easy game, and it's been even harder under Ancelotti. Brighton are playing the best football they've played in years and seem to be our bogey team. Burnley was always a hard place to go, although we got a result there. And then we've got West Brom, who is going to be a hard game, even though they're already relegated. And Southampton could be easy, could be hard. You don't know. Depends on what Southampton turns up.
To be honest, mate, I know you are looking very down in the dumps because of the capitulation, I suppose, is one of the better ways to put it. But like you said, you've still got 2 games to go. There's a lot of things that could happen over the course of the next couple of weeks. Well, sorry, this week. We've still got 2 games to play. We've got midweek games and obviously the season finale on the Sunday.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't write yourself off just yet.
Well, given if Chelsea, Liverpool, and Tottenham lose their next 2 games, and we win ours with a 12 goal swing, we can still qualify for Champions League football, providing Chelsea don't then win the Champions League. But it could still happen. I've said it all the way through that the aim of the season was to finish in the top half. We've had a really good run of it. We've had a phenomenal season. And okay, yes, the last few weeks have been a bit more disappointing, but we've still played well. We haven't got necessarily all the results we've had. We've got an arguably smaller squad than all the teams above us, a smaller wage budget than all the teams above us, and we're still looking like we're going to finish in a European place. So And doesn't the FA Cup European place go to the league because Leicester are in the Champions League?
Yes.
So, in that sense, we'll end up going through some qualifying rounds and hopefully do well. It just depends on if the investment comes next season.
Absolutely.
Only time will tell.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you've got 2 potentially winnable games. I mean, I know West Brom are already relegated. You just touched on that, but I think for the last few performances they put out, certainly against us and at the weekend against Liverpool, they've shown that they can be difficult at times. Like you said last week, I think you hit the nail on the head last week and said that had Sam Allardyce been in the position longer, then they wouldn't have gone down.
Yep.
Or potentially wouldn't have gone down. But
yeah.
I think it's on the most part 2 potentially easy. No, I've said I've just screwed you guys, but two potentially winnable games.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be too disheartened as it stands at the moment. We'll see. We'll see how happy you're next Wednesday.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what David Moyes' motivational skills are like, because Champions League is now gone, which is a big motivator for players, and we've seen that throughout the years. Once that opportunity's gone, some players' heads drop, even though there's still other European football to play. And with 2 games to go, the fact that we've dropped right down, if he can motivate them and we can still put in good performances, then we'll still get European football. Which, if you offered it to me at the beginning of the season, I would have bit your hand off for.
Yeah,
would have liked it through a cup, but hey ho, we've had a good ride of it. Yeah, I just hope we finish strong rather than sort of with a bit of a deflation from where 4 weeks ago we was 4th,
yeah,
or not even that. So I'd rather us go out with a bang rather than a whimper. Even if we win our next 2 games and still don't get anywhere, like, I think that'd be good. I really do.
Like I said earlier on in the podcast, man, I think should the worst happen, we win our next 2 games and you lose your next 2 games and we were to finish above you, I think I would feel bad for West Ham fans in terms of.
Oh, I guarantee if that happened, we drop out, because you think theoretically Leeds could still finish above us, so we could finish 10th. Worst case scenario, that's the lowest we could finish. If we finish 10th, there will be riots at West Ham. There will be calls for David Moyes' head, even though we've had a fantastic season. You think if we hadn't have lost Ogbonna, Antonio, and Declan Rice for 4 or 5 weeks each, and Fabianski missed a number of weeks, if we hadn't lost that spine of the team, I do think we would have finished 3rd. I really do. But you think, look at the change of form in Liverpool. You take Van Dijk out of the team, they've had a horrid season. They've only they've started to push on in recent weeks, but they're the reigning champions, and they were battling for 10th most of the season. You think you took Aubameyang out of your team from firing for a fair period. You've not done particularly well. So that's one player we saw. What, last year was it? Manchester City had a few injuries at the back, and they struggled. West Ham haven't got the squad depth for some of these clubs, and we've lost three of the main players.
Keep thinking positive, mate. I'm looking forward to the podcast next week.
I really do. I think the players have done tremendously this year, and I think that comes partly down to the playing squad, and it comes a lot down to the staff, the coaches, bashing that into them of hard work. We need to work hard. We need to run. But also the recruitment, in a sense. David Moyes, you know what sort of player he's going to buy. Hard-working player who's tough tackling. We got that in Souček and Soufal, and they're the players who the whole squad have said they're the ones who come in on their days off and train. They're the ones who are doing the extra after, which is encouraging the rest of the squad to do it, which is why we've got better. And then, obviously, the loan signing of Jesse Lingard's been phenomenal. But it's just a case you can't rely on 3 players or 4 players. You've got to do it as a squad, and that's what we now need to start building. That's the next step for West Ham is to get a squad going rather than
Yep.
We've got, like Arsenal did. We've started to weed out players. Like Haller went, Anderson went out on loan, although no one will now buy him. So trying to get rid of him because he just, again, one of those players. He's got talent. On his day, we'll put someone in his back pocket and make him look silly. But he's got no interest in working hard. And you think in the Premier League, it needs to be the other way around. If you work hard, you will get places, and that's how the likes of Shearer, Henry, Kane, Rooney, they all work ridiculously hard, and they do every game. But never mind. Not the end of the world, is it? It's only a game. I mean, I can drown my sorrows with England going out the quarterfinals of the Euros. So,
Yeah.
But that moves us on to the next section, which does come with a headphone warning.
Please remove your headphones.
So, I think the biggest controversy came in the FA Cup final, if I'm honest. No one likes to see it, but I think the whole country did have a good giggle. I will admit that, because I did. I thought, how many people can I send a text to just with a laughing, crying face? Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant decision. It was a tight decision. We've seen them go either way. The fact that it was in an FA Cup final robbed us all the penalties. But Chelsea did have the most chances in the game. So they can only blame themselves for not being clinical enough. Timo Werner's been missing sitters for the whole season, and you've started him in the cup final.
Yeah, it was the finest of margins. We have seen it given. We haven't seen it given. We've seen an increased number of these decisions. And again, I know that's one of the reasons as to why VAR was brought into the game to kind of make it fairer across the board. But I don't know how many times we're going to have to say this, but something needs to be done about the offside decision. Where do you look at on the player? I suppose, obviously, you have to look at it from any point that a player can score a goal. So anything from the shirt sleeve and above, I suppose, has to be taken into account. But I suppose it did make it, like I said at the start of the podcast, it was. I think Chelsea were kind of nailed on favourites for that particular fixture to come away with a bit of silverware this year. I think they were a little bit unlucky, as you mentioned. They did have the most chances, but I suppose it's one of these underdog stories that everyone likes to see the underdog. I'll go back very quickly back to 2014 when Arsenal played Wolverhampton. Wolves? No, not Wolves.
Hull, was it?
Was
it
Hull? Thank you. Yeah, it was. I watched the bloody highlights earlier. Yeah, it was against Hull. I distinctly remember sitting in a pub
full of Arsenal fans.
Right in my face. Going 2-0 down. Everyone loves an underdog story. I think it's fantastic again for Brendan Rodgers. I suppose it shows his caliber as a manager, taking Leicester to an FA Cup final, or their first FA Cup victory in their history. Obviously, Gary Lineker was very pleased with the win, but I think he's a manager that needs to be taken seriously within footballing circles. Obviously, he did it quite comfortably in Scotland. Obviously,
he almost did it with Liverpool originally, didn't he? Very, very, very almost. But I do think you're right. Liverpool, Leicester deserved to win that, and I think the joy shown on the owner's face, obviously the son of, I can't remember his name, but sort of leaving that legacy, I think that was very apparent with him and a number of the key players in that squad. But yeah, I think that sort of karma paid back. they're good owners. They look after their fans. They understand that the fans are the lifeblood of the football club, and they are trying to pay that back as much as possible. So good on them. Good on them.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely,
what's your opinion on handball? Because
handball.
We've seen a number of times this season where handballs have been given, where it's not really handball, or you go, that's harsh, he's just standing there. And we've seen ones where you go, that's bloody ridiculous. Didn't even touch his hand. Or it was a blatant handball and it's not given. But in the Chelsea-Arsenal game, we did see a ball pinged in and it hit Rob Holding in the arm. And I can guarantee 99% of Arsenal fans then had a squeaky bum time because we've seen them given as penalties, and I saw it and went, I don't believe VAR even looked at it.
They did.
They did. Okay.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Which is why I personally did the face. To me, that should have been a penalty all day long.
See, here's the thing: he's I saw it and I was like, he had his hands here. He hasn't moved it, and it's hit his hand. If he'd moved it to there, I would have gone unnatural hand position. But his hand is already there, so I was on the fence. But I was like, oh no, here we go again. But so you would have given it. I wouldn't have. So this is where it's subjective.
It's again something that we've mentioned all season.
The way I looked at it is, if it was against Manchester United, would it have been a penalty? Yes, it would have. So it should be given as a penalty for everyone. But we also see one in the West Ham game, which didn't go to a check, which should have been a penalty. That was lower hand, similar thing, but a bit further out from the body. And it's just like, we didn't get that. But again, my thought on it was, if it was against Manchester United, they would have got the penalty. And that then brings in the questions that we've brought up a number of times. Is there an agenda in the Premier League VAR thing to give certain things to certain people to try and get results? But again, at the end of the day, I mean, it was lucky on your part that it wasn't given. But for West Ham, we can only have ourselves to blame because we should have scored another goal, and then it doesn't matter. If you put the result beyond doubt, then VAR doesn't really matter.
Yep.
But on both accounts, you could view both of them as good decisions because they are harsh handballs. But the way I looked at it, it was for consistency. They've been given them all season, so they should continue to give them. If it goes against you, you do feel a little bit harshly done by, but at least it would be consistent.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't really have any VAR controversies to. I didn't watch as much football this weekend or this week, but I don't have any more to add unless you do.
Just a couple of bits. Obviously, I just wanted to touch on the Chelsea position. Obviously, it was a bit of a demise of Chelsea.
Yep.
Thomas Tuchel come out and said at the end of the Arsenal Chelsea game and said that he could kind of see the result happening in training that week. Obviously, they've now lost in the FA Cup final. They do have quite a substantial final coming up against Manchester City. Obviously, Manchester City going for their first Champions League trophy.
Yep.
Chelsea, I think it's either going to be, it's their second.
Yep.
What way do you see that final going? Obviously, with the form that Manchester City have been on throughout the season as a whole.
Yep.
Do you think it's their time to win that trophy, or do you feel that Chelsea have got their bad games out of the way and now they're going to romp on for that one?
I don't know. Footballers are suspicious people, aren't they? Or superstitious people, I should say, not suspicious. Oh, there's a footballer there. What's he doing? Let's report him. No, we see Chelsea beat Manchester City in the League Cup final. We see them beat them in the league not so long ago as well. Luckily, I think Man City could have had a number of penalties, and Aguero took a really shit penalty. So at that point, both squads were rotated. They weren't fully, like, on paper. You wouldn't go there. The squads that are going to play. So there's a little bit of mind games there. And I thought Chelsea have got the edge here. Manchester City will know in the last 6 weeks we've lost to this team twice. And that might have a mental edge. But on the other hand, Chelsea have now lost the final. They've had copious amounts of chances and not been able to score. And I think that will play on players' minds as well. I think there will be a number of players in that squad, Tammy Abraham being one, a couple of others that have been frozen out by Tuchel, who may, if they get called upon, be a little bit like, well, I want to leave anyway because you're not playing me, so I'm just going to put it over the bar. That might be the cynic in me talking. I can't imagine lots of footballers would do that. I'm sure there would be some. But my guess for that game is if Werner starts, Chelsea lose. I personally would go with Giroud up front. He likes a final. He likes a goal in a final. And although he usually does that coming from the bench, I think him starting and getting ahead, putting a big ball into him, letting him run onto it, or his hold up play and letting some of the other quicker players, your Hudson-Odois, your Pusic, run down the wing, would be much better. And then bringing on a Timo Werner, who, as legs start to tire, has got blistering pace, and it will give him an extra couple of seconds to settle himself before taking a shot. But I think he will go with Werner, and a bit like the Women's Champions League, they will get absolutely trounced by a full-strength Manchester City. That's my guess, anyway.
To be honest, mate, I think I'm with you on. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's happened to Chelsea over the last couple of weeks. Like I said, for the game certainly against us, it one of the most bizarre goals I've seen in a long while. And granted, I think Aubameyang did really of applying the pressure because if he weren't going to score that goal, obviously Emile Smith-Rowe was in the right place, proper scuffed finish it. But the ball hit the back of the net. But yes, I think that's one of Chelsea's biggest issues this season has been. I'm not saying that they haven't scored goals because obviously they have scored quite a substantial amount of goals. However, that's, I think, when you look at possibly their shots to goals ratio, that is something that is going to be really lacking, and I think that could be something that turns around and bites them in the backside.
They should have been
coming to the final.
Yeah, they should have been much more clinical this season. They really should have. But yeah, it's a final, so anything could happen. I'd like it to be interesting. But yeah, I can't see anything else other than a Man City win. Guardiola wants to win it.
Yep.
I think there probably will be assurances of if you win this, there will be money for you to spend. If you don't, then there probably won't. There will be some, but you've got to get rid of some.
Yeah.
So yeah, big game, real big game. I think Chelsea fans will be a little bit perplexed because when they won it in I want to say 2014. I might got the year wrong. They had one Fernando Torres, who had a few goals in the league but wasn't as prolific as he should have been, who scored the winner in the FA Cup final that year for them to lift the FA Cup final. They went on and he played well in the final. They've now lost, so they're like, history's repeating itself. Oh, actually, no, the German this time is still missing stuff. But here's the thing, right? Jorginho put in that horrendous pass, didn't he?
Thank you. That's the guy.
Jorginho, and then 3 days later he starts a cup final. If you'd done that, and Alex Ferguson was the manager, you'd be nowhere near that team. You would be not even in on the bench. You'd be like, you just cost us a game. You're sitting out the final. Get away from me. And then be hit with a kettle that he's kicked across the room. But I mean, I think Tuchel's done quite a good job of shoring up. I was going to say Spurs him. Shoring up Chelsea, they've become a lot more defensively sound. But the goals have dried up. They really have. So yeah, but points. We're coming. No, this is the ultimate week, isn't it? I got a bonus point.
You did. I have already added that.
But it probably hasn't helped.
No. Well, so we look at the score update. So we had Chelsea versus Arsenal. You had it down for a draw, so 1-1. I had it down for a comfortable Chelsea win. Obviously, we come away winners. No points for either of us.
Yep.
Brighton versus West Ham. You had West Ham to win 2-1. I had 3-2. Obviously, it was a draw, so no points there. Chelsea versus Leicester. Chelsea, you had them to win comfortably 3-0. I had 2-2 going into the extra time, and then Chelsea getting the winner. Obviously, Leicester scored the only goal of the game, cracking goal, as you mentioned earlier. So that's 0 points each. So we had a grand total of nothing.
Because I got a bonus point, and that is because I predicted Manchester City to win the Premier League this year.
Yep. So the scores have changed thus follows. Ian, you are now on 49 points.
Ooh.
I am still sitting on 51. I have not got a point. I don't know how many. In fact, no, I got a point last week. So we are coming into the last two fixtures of this week. We do have Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, West Brom versus West Ham. We then play at home to Brighton, and West Ham's game, you said, is against Southampton.
Yep. Are we chucking a Champions League final as well?
I think we should. I think we should, because this is going to be it. This is it.
Mate, I don't know why you're so worried. At the end of next week, you're going to be on 51 points and I'm going to be on 49. So I get. Can I have a bonus 3 points if that is the case?
I'll tell you what. If West Ham get European football, I think because you will miss out on the
champions.
Yes, on the. If West Ham get European football and none of us score any points, I will concede the trophy to you.
Okay.
There you go.
I'll take it. I'll take it. And I will not take it graciously.
But obviously, if I do end up running away with it, then I'm keeping the trophy.
Yep.
I'll
have to come. I'll have to come to you to represent you with the trophy.
Yes. Yeah. So if we get a damp squib, no one scores any points, but our West Ham finish in European, then you can have the trophy. If I win points and get further on, then obviously I'll get the trophy. But if you win, obviously, the points this week, then obviously you'll get the trophy.
If neither of us score any points out of 5 fixtures, right, then
I'll stop doing this.
Yeah, the next season there won't be any predictions, because so first up is Arsenal versus Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
So go on, give us a brief rundown.
It's a game I'm not looking forward to by any stretch of the imagination. Crystal Palace has tended to be a bit of a bogey team. Again, we are suffering with a few injuries. Aubameyang has, whilst he did set up the goal for Emile Smith-Rowe this week, last week, I do think he hasn't hit the heights that he has, but he has scored some important goals for us this season. Just when we thought he was kind of dead and buried, he pulls himself back into a goal scoring form. But again, Lacazette, I think, has been unfortunate with some of the goals. Some of the games that he hasn't featured, so he has scored goals. Are we likely to see the last couple of appearances for Martin Ødegaard and Danny Ceballos? I would be keen to say yes. I don't know. Well, Danny Ceballos, I don't think will come back to us next season. I'll be very surprised if he does. Martin Ødegaard, I think, has been a good signing for us. I would like to see him in an Arsenal shirt next season because I do think his link-up play and some of his passing is phenomenal. But again, I think he might be priced out of a transfer for us. In terms of Crystal Palace's form, like I said, they did end up getting a comfortable victory in the end of the weekend. Tend to be a bit of a bogey team for us. We are playing away though, so I'd say that would be our biggest opportunity. I think I'm going to go for Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 3.
Ooh, an interesting game. Roy Hodgson's potentially penultimate game as Crystal Palace manager as well. He's obviously out of contract in the summer. We've seen Frank Lampard linked with them quite heavily. I do think you're right. They can be cause fair few problems going forward. Townsend, Aziz, Zaha, Benteke potentially. But again, I do think you're going to score. I am going Crystal Palace 2, Arsenal 2. The old score draw.
Okay.
The next game then is West Brom, West Ham. I'm not sure who's home, who's away.
West Brom are at home.
Okay, so both teams from the West. Well, they're not, are they? That was an interesting conversation. Why is West Ham called West Ham if it's in East London? Bloody hell. Explaining geography to your mother, eh? Right. So, we're on the verge of a shitty sit. Well, we're not. We're on the verge of a disappointing end to a good season. Potentially. It's in our hands, really. I think David Moyes will have a good recovery session with the team. I think he will have well drilled in. We need to not give up and we need to be still working very, very hard. We've seen Declan Rice come back, so he had 90 minutes. We see Ogbonna come back, another 90 minutes. Two good key players for us. We have also seen the return recently of Flappy Hansky, who I think will not be the number one keeper next season. But I do think we will win this one 3-1. I've got a good feeling about it. So.
Okay. Again, I don't think there's much to add. I think this is definitely a must-win game for you guys. In terms of your European qualification, I would love to see West Ham. I think they deserve some form of European football next year with the season that they have. They have been absolutely outstanding. Obviously, I mentioned earlier about fans coming back into the stadiums and what way to celebrate fans coming back into the stadiums by celebrating playing European football again. Mm-hmm. I have gone for a West Ham win on this one. I just on the basis, like I said, I know West Brom haven't really got much to pay for this season other than pride. I do think Sam Allardyce has drilled West Brom, and I think they're quite unlucky at the weekend to get a result against Liverpool. So I think it's going to be a bit of a tougher game for you guys, and I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to West Ham.
2-1 win to West Ham. So both different results so far for us. Or both scorelines. One same result. So what's the next game?
So then we come to the season concluder. Arsenal versus Brighton and West Ham versus Southampton. Both 4:00 kickoffs. Obviously, the season finishes at the same time.
Yep.
Just to avoid any potential match fixing or result fixing. So all games are played at 4:00. I will take the lead on this one just because Arsenal are A in the alphabet.
Yep.
Arsenal versus Brighton. Again, another difficult game. You touched on it earlier about how well Brighton are playing this season. It's some of the most attractive football we've seen, and Danny Welbeck has been a bit on fire this season. Really pleased for him. I know he had a bit of a shit season last season. Watford, obviously picking up some injuries, but on the most part has been fit this season and shown just what he can do. I think he scored an absolute belter of a goal against West Ham. Nice little cheeky chip over the keeper. And I do think he could potentially come back and haunt us. And I know they do have some good players at Brighton. Our home record hasn't been great this season, but I would like to think we're going to finish on a high. Again, our defensive frailties have let us down a lot this season, but like I said, I wouldn't put it past Danny Welbeck coming back and scoring against us. And I hope he celebrates, because it's not like he left on bad terms. His contract just expired. He was injury stricken at us, and we couldn't afford to keep him on the books. But that being said, I'm going to put us at 2-1 winners on that one.
2-1 winners. Ooh, very interesting. See, I'm going to go the other way, because you're at home and there'll be fans in the stadium. And I think after a few wayward balls and a few missed chances, the Arsenal fans will start to get on the players who've had a season where they've got off lightly, I think. And especially in terms of the Arsenal support, I think if they'd played this season 3 years ago when there was fans in the stadium for the whole season, they would have been crucified. And I think that may give Brighton the edge. I really do. And for that reason, I'm going 2-1 to Brighton.
Fair enough.
Upset your last day of the season. Now, that leaves us one game left in the Premier League. As you said, it all kicks off the same time. But West Ham go to...
home.
We're at home. We're at home to Southampton. Okay. So that could be good. It could be bad. As we all know, West Ham fans are a funny bunch. Even if we're winning, they could be booing everyone. But I think this is a must-win game as well. Really, we've got to win the next two for it to be a successful campaign, as the media will put it. As I've said for weeks now, it depends on what Southampton turn up. It really does. Southampton, you could tonk them 10-0, you could lose 10-0. They've got that quality in them. I think at that point they will be on holiday, because they haven't got anything else to play for. It is the last game of the season. Even if they win it, it's not really going to change their league position. But for West Ham, it could make a big difference. But I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I'm going 1-0 to West Ham. I think that's a reasonable result.
Okay. I see. I know what you said. Like in terms of Southampton season, really there's not much riding on this game. They could well be in holiday mode. West Ham, as with the game against West Brom, it is a vital 3 points needed. And I do think potentially Southampton could turn up and spoil the party. And I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends up as a draw. Which, again, depending on the results around you, because just looking at the table, you are equal on points with Tottenham Hotspur. Depending on who they've got in their next two games, again, could depend. 4 points may be enough to get you into the 6th position. So I'm going to go for, I think, unfortunately, Southampton will come and rock the boat, so to speak. But I'm going to say that West Ham will clinch Europa League football, but it will be a 1-1 draw.
If we can do that, I'll take it. If you offer that to me now, 4 points, I'd take it. I'd bite your hand off for it. But, well, we'll see next week, won't we? We'll see. The unfortunate bit is I won't be able to watch it. There's no way. Well, I could watch it on my phone. But I'm away. That leaves one game, and one game only. The big game, which they tried to bring over to Wembley, because it's two British teams. But UEFA, the non-corrupt people who are not worried about money, to reaffirm that was pretty much their statement about the Super League verbatim. We're not corrupt. We don't care about the money. They wanted all their VIPs to come in from a red-listed country. And the UK government said, no, you're not allowed to do that. I don't know what that accent was. It wasn't Boris, was it? But that's what they said. So we'll just move on. UEFA said, okay, we'll go to Portugal then. And now it's being held in Portugal, which is on the amber list, I believe. So by the time City and Chelsea fans get out there will probably be on the red list again. They won't be able to come home. But hey ho, problem's a problem. Interesting game. What do you think, Mike? What do you think? You've heard my thoughts on it.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's going to be very much on Chelsea's last two games. Going into this one, obviously they've had a bit of a torrid time over the last two fixtures, but I think potentially we have seen a more rotated Manchester City squad over the last couple of games. Obviously, they wrapped up the league last week with Manchester United's loss. I think it was against Liverpool, of all teams. So I'm thinking that Manchester City are going to go uber full strength squad. And I think with the way that we have seen Manchester City play for large portions of this season, I think this is going to be a runaway game. I think Manchester City are going to go 3-0 up with Chelsea scoring one goal, consolation right towards the end. So I'm going to go for a 3-1.
Well, you've sort of stolen my thinking there. A runaway game. I think because we've said this, it's going to be the most boring Champions League final like in the history of. Right, the biggest winning margin of a Champions League final is by 4 goals. Number of teams like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and someone else throughout the years. I think there's going to be a new record. I think there's going to be a 5-goal winning margin. I'm going Manchester City 6-1.
Wow.
I might even put a quid on it. Because I imagine the odds for that will be pretty good. Shall I have a look? While I'm just looking this up, Daniel Ek, the owner of Spotify, has said he wanted to try and buy Arsenal, and by all accounts has been quite understanding and quite professional about it, where you don't usually see the etiquette that he's shown. Said that he's lodged a bid. Arsenal said we never received any bid. And he's now come out and said, no, actually you did, and you told me to go away. So I will I will respect that. But at any opportunity there is, if your mind does change, I'm interested. What do you make of that? Do you take that as Daniel X telling the truth, or is it another lie from the Conkeys, or do you think X just trying to play on that to win over the Arsenal fans, to try and force their hand a little bit?
That is a cracking question. And to be honest, when I was searching the recesses of Twitter this week, looking just what was going on in the Twitterverse, I did see an outcry of Arsenal fans kind of calling for Daniel X's head to say, come on, what's going on? What's happening to this bid that we've heard so much about? And as you rightly said, he has come out and said, I did put in a bid. It was rejected. I have, however, seen since that apparently the owners are not looking to sell. However, they are now, or one report I have seen is that apparently they are trying to hold out for a bid of around about £2 billion.
Okay.
But on the reverse side of that, obviously we have heard Mikel Arteta come out in the last game against Chelsea and said that he is going to get the backing of the Cronkies going into the new season.
Yeah,
we have seen quite a substantial number of outs this year. We do obviously have a few loan players. Obviously, Kolasinac is currently on loan. William Saliba is currently out on loan, but at the same time, we are going to lose players who are currently in the club on loan. It does remain to be seen whether this will be made. Obviously, we have to look out towards the end of the transfer market whether the board are going to back the club. I have seen one source who was the only source at that particular point when the whole Thomas Partey saga was going on, we did see numerous reports to say that the Thomas Partey deal was going to go through, and then it wasn't. And he was the only one to say that, look, chill out, guys, it's going to happen. And then sure enough, we got the confirmation that the bid had been submitted to La Liga, and Thomas Partey was having his medical, and the deal was done. And this was the only person to say that he was coming.
Yep.
There's a guy called AFC Bell on Twitter. I have seen him report that the board are going to heavily invest into Arsenal over the summer transfer window.
Yep.
So we need to kind of chill our boots a little bit and look at the end of the transfer window. Now, that's all very well and good. I know transfer speculation is a big topic. Obviously, we will cover over the next coming weeks, as well as the Euros. But my only gripe against that would be that, yes, they have invested into the squad over the last few windows, and it has been players that we have needed. But I think they could have done more over the last couple of windows.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have made use of a couple of free transfers, i.e. Willian and David Luiz, but I think we could have done better in terms of the recruitment. But I think if the investments aren't made and we start off poorly next season, they are going to have to seriously consider bids outside of that, because I can tell you what, Arsenal fans aren't going to take it. And I will. We've seen fan power at its largest, I think, over the last couple of weeks with this whole ESL thing. And I think that Arsenal fans will start to boycott the club. And as soon as that starts hitting their pockets, they're going to think, fuck, I need to jump ship.
Yeah. Well, you say about fan power at its highest. We see the Manchester United and Liverpool game, the amount of security that was there. They had 3 layers of Harris fencing and stadium barriers to keep fans away from the stadium. So I think the Manchester United game, where there is fans inside the stadium, will be the one to watch, because that will be where the fireworks are.
Yep.
But yeah, I do think you're right. I think once fans starts to really show the power, and we've all said it for years, the only way that you'll get owners to listen is by using your feet, not going and not paying and not investing, and it's hard to do because that tribalism of wanting to support the club. But that's the only way that the owners listen. Providing they're getting something in their pocket, they're not interested what you think. But very, very good. So, have you anything else to add to this week's edition of the FDT-TV podcast?
No, nothing else from me.
No, so that is a very good way to wrap it up. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. Remember, next Wednesday, the 26th, we will be live at 7:30 Greenwich Mean Time on the FDT-TV YouTube channel. So if you are subscribed, you will get a notification to say we are going live. If you're not, the new one. All the more reason to be subscribed. But until next week, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
Enjoy the last week of Premier League football for 2 months, and we will see you next week.